We begin with Alberta's new bill that aims to give the province more power over municipalities. Local leaders say it's an attack on democracy.
This is going to undermine local decision making and it's going to hurt our communities. And this is something that Mentoni has never asked for. So I'm just I'm at loss to see what is the need or for these changes.
There are a few examples where municipal governance definitely can benefit. Everything else is pretty nebulous, not a lot of answers around it, and I think it's bordering on overreach in many cases.
The new bill would, amongst other things, introduce political parties into local municipal politics, starting in Edmonton and Calgary. The bill would also give Cabinet the power to repeal bylaws and remove councillors from office. One Edmonton City Councillor called this proposed legislation really troubling.
The way it's written right now sounds like it's very much about intimidation and silencing, not about ensuring that those who've clearly broken the rules and have a terrible track record, that have the ability to remove them, right?
To explain why this legislation is needed, Rick McIver is the Alberta Minister of Municipal Affairs, and he joins me now. Minister, welcome to the program. It's good to see you.
It's great to be here, David. Thank you.
This bill, it gives Cabinet some big powers, the power to remove municipal councillors from office or call a public referendum to have them removed, to overturn municipal bylaws of any kind. Why does Cabinet need such power, and how do you define the public interest threshold that would trigger these?
Well, the most important thing that I would like to say to you about that is Cabinet or government already has these powers and essentially always has. So the only thing that's really changed, I suppose, is the time frame and the process from A to B, but the ability, the authority to go from point A to B has been there as long as I remember.
So if it's there, why do you need this legislation? Because people are looking at some of the measures here and seeing this as a bit of overreach by the government.
Well, it can't possibly be overreach because municipal government is 100% within the purview of the provincial government as per Canada's constitution. So those that call it overreach really don't understand how the constitution works. So we're just exerting the authority that we have. And again, the powers that you talk about have always been there. We're certainly making them a little more accessible should they be required. That's true. But there's a few things that have kind of helped bring us to this point. I'll point you to during a time at the end of COVID, the city of Edmonton chose, after we removed our health ministry, removed the masking bylaw, decided to be the provincial government and put a masking bylaw in. Now, we had to actually go and quickly draft a piece of legislation to override that and put it through. And that was fine then. But what would happen if, for example, we were in the middle of the summer break when the legislature wasn't expected to sit for another 3-4 months? Then, of course, we would have had to recall the legislature, great expense, a lot of trouble and inconvenience for our staff and people that perhaps were on long planned vacations. And we don't want to ever to have that happen to occur. So this doesn't expand our power, but it does actually put us in a better position should we have to act in a short period of time.
I understand the Constitution that, in the phrase of Parliament, municipalities are creatures of the legislature and that they are created by a piece of legislation in the provincial Parliament. But municipal governments do exist for a reason, and they are elected for a reason. And just use the example that you cited about Edmonton deciding to go with a masking bylaw or a masking requirement. We know during COVID that the virus was in different conditions and different levels of spread in different municipalities, in different communities, and in different parts of the country. So why not? What is wrong with a local government taking decisions to respond to what its local health authorities are warning them about the local situation in their jurisdiction?
No, it's a provincial government authority, Ministry of Health, and municipalities don't get to be the provincial government nor pretend to be. So that's not anything new. I don't imagine in other places as well as Alberta.
Okay, well, I mean, Toronto did have different, restrictions than Ottawa at different times during the Ontario experience. So, but you just don't think this should rest with municipal governments? I mean, what about other policies? Minister, for example, Calgary is going through a process now to review its zoning bylaws. If you don't like where they land on that, is that the sort of thing you might use this new power to overturn?
No, actually, here's an interesting thing. We've had the power in Alberta to overturn municipal zoning bylaws and decisions for a long, long time, and over a decade. And that power has been used exactly 0 times. And that's, I think, to the large part, what you can look forward to in the future. We may or may not agree with Calgary's decision, but it's squarely within the authority that our government has given them. And we hope they will make a good decision.
So if these powers already exist, then what is the public policy problem you're trying to solve with this legislation that has alarmed so many people? Because you have the mayors of Edmonton and Calgary and councillors in those cities saying that this could potentially put a chill on their operations. They're worried about being constrained by potentially a government that just doesn't like their agenda at the municipal level intruding and interfering, using the powers consolidated under this particular piece of legislation.
The powers are already there. They're already consolidated. It's a little bit quicker to act on them if that comes up right now. But again, I give you the example. We've had the power to overturn planning decisions for over a decade and have used it exactly 0 times. I think we hope that's what we can look forward to.
One of the measures in this legislation, Minister, is banning the use of tabulators in municipal elections. Why do you feel the need to? We use those here in Ottawa. I voted them a couple of times. It speeds everything up. What's the issue?
I don't have a problem with them, I have to tell you, but here's the issue. A certain percentage of the population is uncomfortable with that idea. So, and some would say, and I'm not even arguing with this, that they might be cheaper and quicker. Those are both good things. But you know what's more important than all of that is that the day after the election, when the winners are all declared, that the public has 100% confidence that those people declared the winners actually got the most votes. And that is actually more important than the cost. It's more important than the speed. It's the confidence, because municipalities do such important work, which we respect very much. And amongst those things, they pass bylaws that people have to obey and other rules and regulations that people have to live by. And the legitimacy of their authority comes from being the duly elected people that won the municipal election. And the less doubt that we can have cast over that, I think, leads to the more confidence that people will have in their local municipal government, and really then that's the more impetus for them to obey and live by the rules and bylaws that the municipality justifiably and legitimately puts in place by virtue of them being, legitimately elected. So taking away as much doubt from the results as we possibly can, I think can only be a good thing.
But where's the doubt about tabulators? I mean, I know we went through this whole thing in the United States.
I don't have it.
So I do.
There are some, but it's not about me. Some Albertans do doubt it. So rather than have people worry about or doubt the legitimacy of a municipal election, we're going to take away all the doubt that we can. Again, the municipalities have a very important role to play, very important decisions to make, and we need those decisions respected by all of the citizens. So best way to do that is to make sure that whether you like the person who was elected or not, we should all be able to agree that the people sitting in the elected seats got the most.
But how widespread is this doubt on tabulators, Minister? I mean, I know you see some of this in the more conspiratorial circles of a population, but I've never seen anything suggesting there is a widespread or even statistically significant concern about the integrity of elections conducted using these counts in Canada. I know there was technical issues with the New Brunswick provincial election more than a decade ago that they sorted out rather quickly, but this is used in municipalities right across the country, and I've seen nothing to challenge the legitimacy of them. So why indulge that by banning them, I wonder?
Zero doubt is better than some doubt when it comes to people accepting the legitimacy of an election. Again, we respect the important job that municipalities do. We don't want any doubt about the legitimacy of the elections and the legitimacy of every single person that sits in an elected seat for a municipality. We want the public, all of the public, to respect the legitimacy of those people and to respect their decisions. So this is a good way to take a small amount of doubt down to zero, and we think that's well worth it.
Okay, 2 other things I wanted to just touch on with you very quickly, if I can. You're moving ahead with the plan the Premier mused about to allow political parties in municipal politics, which a lot of the people engaged in that world have pushed back against, saying it's not necessary and not something they particularly want or need. And you're also allowing corporations and unions to make donations of up to $5,000. And some of the criticism of that is there's way more corporations out there than there are unions, and this imbalances a playing field where this sort of activity was disallowed to now allow business interests to have the upper hand. So why go ahead with those two measures, given the concerns that have been raised about it?
Okay, those are two very different questions, but on the terms of political parties, the only place where political parties will be put in place is in Calgary and Edmonton. And even media people have agreed with me that largely there's a political party-like activity already happening. So all we're not, in fact, right now, there's no ban, no rules around political parties. There's no limitation on it. So we're going to put some reasonable limitations on it. If you're going to behave like a political party, which is fine, then some of the normal reporting requirements that other political parties and other political arenas have to have will apply. And it's no more difficult than that. But to be clear, no one will be required to be part of a political party to run in a municipality. And we are ensuring that local elections stay local, because we will not be allowing any formal relationship between a provincial or federal, provincial or political party and a municipal political party. In other words, local elections will stay local.
So just on the other point, because I did join two thoughts together, you were right in your first response to that. Why allow this sort of corporate money and union money into municipal politics in this way at all, especially in a way that people seem to think will imbalance towards corporate and business interests?
No, I'm not sure I agree with you on that, but I will say this is that the NDP took that out at one point because their quote, their saying was, and they always used air quotes, they're going to take the big money out of politics. But the fact is it wasn't. As much money or more has been spent in the election since, but I think it's less clear who it's coming from. So I think having more clarity about who's giving money who and who's getting the money is that level of transparency and accountability can only be positive for Alberta and for the elections that happen here. So I'm comfortable with that. I think that the more we know about who's getting money from whom and what they represent actually serves the voters to know who they're voting for, what line of ideology or thought or what emphasis they may have in the decisions they make. And it actually should help voters to make a more informed and better decision. And hopefully that will lead to the best municipal government that we can have in every municipality in Alberta.
Rick McIver, I got a million more questions, but I don't have a million more minutes. We're out of time. I want to thank you for joining me. It's Alberta Minister of Municipal Affairs, Rick McIver. Thank you, sir.
I appreciate your interest today, and I hope to talk to you soon.